It's late for that.
Yeah, we were driving into it. My daughter, she's finally learning how to drive.
Oh,
Uh, she's been resisting, and so we were joking that we're driving into a haboob.
yeah, that's tough.
I didn't have those others, so like.
Oh, yeah.
Okay,
Oh, that's great. Thank you.
we are live on YouTube now, so watch what you say.
Okay.
Yeah,
It's good to know that we're
But I'm not
live.
recording yet.
Yeah. Well, Michelle and I have experienced haboobs. They're they're awesome phenomenon, but they're scary as hell.
Mhm.
Oh, yeah, they are.
Unbelievable.
I've never been through one. I mean.
You guys
basically
know what we're talking about?
I do, yeah.
Major dust storm? Yeah.
It wasn't major. It was more one of those little kind of minor
There
ones.
he is. Hello. A little bit of a shock, huh? No, just sit right up here. You're the applicant.
In the defendants.
You're, uh-huh. Okay. So Ron, just to clarify, we're doing basically same kind of hearing process that we use at the full meeting.
Yes,
Okay.
basically the same.
Is there anybody on public yet at all? Okay, let me know.
Well, I mean, you want to know if we have public?
Yes, because for public comment.
Well, you have to call for it either way.
Yeah, but it also has non-agenda items
Yeah.
listed. So I just
Right.
wanted to be sure at the
Yeah.
beginning. So let me know, please. I have 2 minutes left. Is that what you, and everybody else's time? You'd find them, you'd be running right over there.
I'm going to start the recording and unmute. You
Okay.
can call to order when you're ready.
Yeah, it says 8:29 on my phone, but we can get started. It's everyone's here, I believe. All right, I'm going to call to order the Planning and Zoning Chair meeting Friday, August 23rd, 2024, 8:30 a.m. Call to order Angela Dye Chair. In the room, we have the applicant, Narcissus Tudor. For staff, Ron, want to introduce yourself for the record?
Ron Quarles, interim
Okay.
senior planner.
Thank you, Michelle.
Michelle Dodds, interim preservation planning director.
Thank you. And we have,
Piper and Darren.
Yeah.
You don't-
I know, I
You
don't,
want us
but I
to?
would like to, yeah, just for the record.
Piper Miller,
Clerk.
Darren Candelaria,
All right. And Darren, what's your official title?
Historic Preservation Planner.
Thank you. Just for the record. This is my first chair meeting, so just want to make it official. So public comment on non-agenda items, and is there anyone?
No public comment.
No public, okay. Otherwise, I would have read the raise your hand function. Let's go to public hearing items. The first and only item we have on our agenda is Lot 38R, Block 3, West Telluride Addition, minor subdivision, lot line vacations. The summary is that it's a consideration by the P and Z chairperson of a minor subdivision per the Land Use Code Section 6-403 Dot B, to vacate interior lot lines across existing buildings, creating one lot of 5,312.5 square feet. Legal description, portions of lots 36, 37, 38, block 3 WTA, that would be West Telluride Edition, according to the plat recorded June 20th, 1891, in plat book 28 at page 3, and an unnumbered block in the northwest corner of the town of Telluride. According to the plat recorded September 6th, 1883, in plat book 28 at page 1, and all the unnumbered block in the southwest corner of the Dakota addition to the town of Telluride, according to the plat recorded July 20th, 1901, in plat book 28 at page 22, County of San Miguel, State of Colorado. The address is 239 North Aspen Street, Zone District Residential. Owner is Harley Barnes. Applicant is Narcissus Tudor, architect. Staff member Ron Quarles, interim senior planner. And there's an attachment for this. So we have a note in the attachments that Narcissus is here and on behalf of the owner, a letter of authorization. So, Ron, do you want to start
Okay, sure. Thank you,
with
Madam
an
Chair. Good morning,
yes,
Chair Dye.
introduction?
So this is an application for a minor subdivision. Your reading of the legal description kind of answers why this application is being made.
That's
It's
old.
yeah, it's to remove the interior lot lines, end up with a single conforming lot of approximately 5,300 square feet. Property is located 239 North Aspen, southwest corner of North Aspen and West Galena. It includes both a primary structure and a shed. Both of them are contributing. The primary building was actually constructed back at the turn of the past century. HARC reviewed this property, this site, for a minor addition and repositioning of the shed in May of this year. The parcel includes lot 36, 37, and portion of 38 of block 3, the West Telluride addition, and 2 remnants out of Dakota and town of Telluride. It's kind of at the crossroads of these early additions. The request to remove these interior lot lines and plat a single lot, sorry for that interruption, as lot 38R block 3 of the West Telluride addition. The application is exempt from the prohibition of lot line vacations under 6-408W. To eliminate non-conforming lots or to eliminate pre-existing building encroachments across lot lines, both of which apply to this property. This is actually the first subdivision post ballot 300. So it utilizes the existing language in the land use code that we replaced ballot 300 with. Staff included a recommendation of approval with the motion in your packet. It meets the applicable code requirements and will allow the owner to move forward with construction that was approved by HARC in May. And with that, that concludes the presentation. I'll be glad to answer any questions.
Yeah, I do have a question. Just to be clear, we are eliminating the lot line between 36 and 37. Is that correct?
Yes, all
And
of the interior
37.
lot.
So even though the subdivision line comes through and continues on to other lots and across the street, that one is also going away?
It will be a single lot, and there are other examples of single
Yeah.
lots that have been platted since those
Okay.
original.
So it wasn't clear which lot lines. I assumed all of them, but just for the record, those are the ones. And then there's a diagonal that goes through the primary structure. And then
Yes.
there's also another diagonal north to south that goes through in the middle of what will become one lot.
Yeah, and those.
And all of that will be called 38R.
Correct.
Okay.
And those are two remnants, so they really, I mean, technically, this is a lot of record as it's defined in our land use code. We do have a definition, but there's nothing other than a definition. So the only way to address this is through the minor subdivision.
Lot line vacation.
Yes.
Okay. I don't have any other questions. Thanks. Ron, applicant?
No,
Jeff?
Ron, thank you. I think you described it extremely well, and it's a cleanup item that was requested by the town when we submitted originally for HARC.
Okay. So, we still don't have any public to comment, I assume? Piper?
Are you calling for public comment?
Yes,
There is none.
there is none. So I don't have any questions of Ron or the applicant, so I'll close. And we don't have any public comments, so I'll close the public hearing. It sounds like this was a housekeeping item as it was originally described in Prop 300, where lot lines that went through the middle of structures would not be subject to that. And that's since been codified, as I understand it. So there's a motion here for approval, which I concur. Any other comments? We close the public hearing. Just want to make sure my procedure's right here. We close the public hearing. I'm deliberating and I'll make a motion.
Yes.
I approve a minor scale subdivision to vacate interior lot lines running through existing buildings, resulting in a 5,312.5 square foot lot designated as Lot 38R, Block 3, West Telluride Addition, based on the findings set forth in the staff memo dated August 8th, 2024. This motion is based on evidence and testimony provided at a public hearing held on August 23rd, with notice of such hearing provided as required by the Telluride Land Use Code. And there's nobody to second, so motion stands. And I approve. I vote approval.
Yes.
So we're good?
So we're good.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Narcis.
Thank you, Ron. Thank you, Angela.
Fascinating, I might say.
is.
Process 1891, 1883, 1901. This is amazing.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, well, if there's no other business to conduct, Ron?
Yes. No,
No.
there isn't.
No, isn't. And Michelle? No? Okay, I'll close the meeting, adjourn at 8:39.
Thank you,
Okay,
Chair.
we're good. Thank you.
Good morning, Mark. You're muted. Hey, Peter, would you turn the sound off of your iPad, please? Unmute yourself.
Morning.
So we have, it looks like Darren, Ron, Erica, Piper, and
Michelle?
Michelle's there. Okay, good morning, Michelle.
Morning.
That's twice in 1 week. I don't know if we want to keep meeting like this. Okay, we'll give it another minute here and then we'll get started.
Recording in progress.
What's that creaking noise?
It's Peter's.
Oh,
Laptop.
okay. Okay, Piper, are you ready?
Yes, sir.
Okay, good morning, everybody. We'll call to order the HARC Commission Chair meeting of Friday, August 23rd, 2024 at 9 a.m. It's a hybrid meeting at Rebecca Hall. As a reminder, the purpose of HARC is to preserve, maintain, and enhance the historic character, scale, architectural integrity, and cultural resources of the town and the town historic landmark district. Present from staff are Piper, Erica, Darren, Michelle, and Ron. And we'll start with any public comment on non-agenda items. Does anybody in the public want to comment on a non-agenda item? Seeing none, we'll move on to our one and only public hearing. It's the title is 129 North Aspen remodel. Consideration of an application for a minor scale addition in the historic residential zone district that will increase the structure's floor area by more than 10%, but less than 25%, resulting in a building that contains less than 2,500 square foot of floor area per land use code 7203A1C2, and a minor scale alteration of a rated structure in the historic residential zone that does not increase its floor area per land use code 7203A3C2. It's lots 37, 38, 39, and 40 in Block 4, West Telluride Edition. It's 129 North Aspen. It's in the historic residential zone. Owner Shane and Lenora Feeney. Applicant Sante Architects. Staff member Erica Jensen. Erica?
Great, thank you so much. So we're here for the review of 129 North Aspen. We did receive public comment from Michael Lynch. Did you have time to review these comments?
Yes, I did. I'm not sure I understood the complete parking situation, but and I'm not there to go walk down, but we'll talk to the applicant about it unless you have any clarifications as you present.
Okay. So this project is located in the historic residential zone district, the historic residential treatment area, and it is inside the historic district. The primary structure is rated contributing, requiring great sensitivity when reviewing this project. And this project is proposing alterations to a non-historic addition, alterations to the contributing primary structure. Condition 1 is to revise the south wall plane to be inset from the contributing structure, and condition 2 is to revise the height of the addition to be subordinate and more inconspicuous. The protrusion of the addition on the south facade, it actually protrudes past the historic wall plane, as well as there is a minimal height difference. It's less than a foot in height from the contributing structure to the addition, and this makes it incompatible with the scale of the contributing structure. The guidelines really do stress insetting an addition, and this project is actually proposing the opposite. Condition 3.
Erica, do you know how many feet proud that is? Of course, I can get the applicant to share that, but if you happen to know, just I'm thinking
I
about.
believe it might be about 3 feet, but Peter can correct me if I'm
Okay, that's all right. Keep going.
Condition 3 is to modify the parking to minimize the visual impacts as well as the impacts to the contributing structure. So currently this lot has no parking. A parking space or a payment in lieu will be required because they're redeveloping the site. So a curb cut and driveway are proposed on the southeast portion of the front yard. The proposed location is directly adjacent to the rated structure. As you can see, the compliant parking space actually ends at the wall of the home. The closeness of the parking to the contributing structure greatly changes the context of the site as well as causes concerns over impacts to the structure. Condition 4 is to revise the front windows to maintain existing glazing style, and condition 5 is to ensure that the windows being replaced on the contributing structure are wood. The applicant is proposing to change the window division on the front window, which is not appropriate. The window division or design should stay the same. And it is believed that the windows are not historic. They have been replaced, and so they can be replaced again, but it is unclear if the proposed replacement windows are wood or aluminum clad material, and the replacement windows on the historic structure will need to be wood. Condition 6 is to remove the new window on the south facade. Condition 7 is to revise the plans to keep the door on the south facade, and condition 8 is to provide more detail for the replacement door and transom window on the front door if it's deemed to be non-historic. So the applicant is proposing to add a window on the south facade. The guidelines speak to avoiding adding windows to facades visible from the street. There is evidence that this window existed in the 1970s, but there is no evidence that the window existed during a period of significance. The applicant is proposing to also remove the door and transom on this facade and replace it with a window. There is no photographic evidence that this is not historic. There is non-historic nails and fasteners in the framing, but unless photographic evidence can be found that this door is not historic, it should not be removed. And then they're proposing to replace the transom window on the front of the home and the door, and we would just need more details on what those replacements would look like. Condition 9 is to revise the siding material on the addition to be a more traditional material. The addition is proposed to be standing seam on both the roof and the walls, which is an atypical wall material, especially connected to a contributing structure. So the material should be a little more sympathetic to the sensitivity of the structure. Condition 10 is to relocate the trash enclosure to minimize visual impacts. The trash enclosure is proposed at the northeast corner of the lot in the front yard. This is a very visible location for a trash enclosure and is directly adjacent to the contributing structure. The visibility is detrimental to the site context of the contributing structure. Condition 11 is to adjust the height or materials on the rear yard fence. Condition 12 is to reduce the number of step lights in the rear yard. And condition 13 is to add snow guards or other devices to prevent snow and ice shed. And just a reminder, the chairperson can elevate this application to the full board if it's deemed of special interest to the board or the neighborhood. And if you should choose this option, the application could be heard at the September 18th meeting. And I'm happy to answer any questions before we hear from Peter.
3 quick questions. One in the motion on continuation is why not September for the chair if we continue it? Is that already full?
We do not have any applications for the September chair meeting, so we were actually not going to have that meeting.
Oh.
And because we normally continue applications for 2 months.
Okay. And question number 2, what was the heart of the concern of this parking? Of course, I can speak to the applicant about it too, per the letter from Mike Lynch.
I think
you didn't want 2 cars?
No, I think the concern is just, it's such a constrained site and adding parking adjacent to the directly adjacent, those parking spaces butt up to the historic home. And I think it does adding a car directly adjacent with no space between the structure and the parking spaces changes the site context.
Okay, so they're just to the south, so they now look at the cars and there's no screening proposed here. Yes.
Mhm.
Looks like planters, maybe. I don't know.
No,
Oh, no, paper, that's pavers. Yeah, okay. Yeah, what about screening? Erica, do you have any opinion on that with respect to the guidelines?
I mean, the guidelines do speak to if there would be a way to screen the parking. Um, that would be preferable to what's proposed here.
Okay, but that's what you meant by number 3?
Modify or, if you deem it appropriate to remove the spaces.
Oh, okay, so if I talk with the applicant and we agree there's some screening, that's not part of number 3 now, minimizing visual impacts?
Mhm.
No?
What's your question?
So does number 3, minimizing the visual impacts, imply screening?
It implies screening, removing the parking entirely. That
Oh,
I think, yeah, we could work with the applicant on exactly how it could be minimized.
okay. And then lastly, on the drawing A201,
Mhm.
which the south elevation, my last question is, did you have concern with the size of that dormer in the new addition compared to the existing dormers? It seems significantly larger, but that just caught my eye. Were you not concerned with respect to the guidelines on the size of that?
I wasn't concerned, I think, because it's such a different style that
Okay.
it is. I thought the size was appropriate, but if you think it might be too large, then
Okay, and then on that A203, last course I forgot, on the upper level, second and third floors, A203, with respect to the window rehab guidelines of, respecting the proportions, same window wall ratio, et cetera, as traditionally seen. And again, we are part of a contributing house. We are in the HR sensitive district. Those top 3 levels had 4 windows. And traditionally that seems excessive with window to wall ratio over what we have done on the second and third floor. I didn't mind the first floor, but did you have any concern, or do you have any concern, as I do, on the second and third, where you see 4 windows above 4 windows?
let me A203 here.
No, I'm
No?
looking at the up second and third. Yeah, up there, second and third levels, right there, and up above it. There's 4-pack below and a 4-pack above. See, just to the left of that dormer. Yeah,
That's
right
the
there.
building. That's the
That's
building
the
beyond.
building beyond.
Oh, okay. Well, then why didn't we tell them, Peter? Okay, never mind. That was not traditional. I didn't approve that. Okay, I'm long distance, you can tell. Thank you. All right, I don't have any other questions. Let's hear from the applicant. Peter, you share your screen?
Okay. Let's see here. Am I not sharing? Sorry.
Not quite there.
Try it again. Share screen. Start broadcast. And now you go to, you should be able to go to. Sorry, we're gonna work through this. There it is. You're good.
We got it. Oh,
Oh.
we had it. It's going.
I didn't touch anything.
Open it up. I think it just has a delay.
Okay. Okay, there we go. Good morning, everybody. My name's Peter Sante, Sante Architects. I'm here as the applicant on behalf of Shane and Leonora Feeney, who have owned this home for a little more than a year or thereabout, at 129 North Aspen Street. It is a contributing home and has been remodeled previously. As you can see, it's quite historic. There is a glimpse of this solarium on the south side of the house. That is an existing condition that has been referenced. I think, Mark, you asked what the offset or the distance that solarium exists south of the historic house, and that's roughly 5.5 feet. I will note that that solarium, as it sits and as this application proposes, with the foundation underneath it, it is 54 feet back from the front property line. It is quite far back. It is at the rear of the historic house where it exists. So we have 13 conditions. I think the first two are the most meaty, if you will, or the ones with the most sort of architectural impact and importance, while the others I think we largely agree with and can address, I think, in good order. So I will just try to breeze on through here. Just as a first slide, you can see existing condition photograph, solarium on the far left. There is the south wall where there is a nice canopy roof and stoop or porch with the door. We'll talk at some length about that because that we do not believe, and we'll walk through that door was present during the period of significance. I want to make note here at this point too, there has been some handoff between staff. Jana was the preservation staff person who we were interacting with for the first several months. I think Ron has been in a few of these meetings as well, but we talked at some length about that, and we can look at some slides as well. But just to clarify, we were not able to find any historic photographs of the front of the house from the period, nor the south side of the house. There were some aerials from the hillside above town, which we know pretty well, that give glimpses of it, but really not in a telling way about architectural detail. So we are sort of without that kind of support at this point, but the Sanborn maps, which we'll touch on, do not show that south stoop, the canopy, and any of the sandboards through or after the period of significance, which we will touch on as well. So that's the front of the house, and a 3D model on the right. That's just Revit rendering. And you can see that, and you can see the proposed drive or parking area there on the south side of the house as well. This is a photo and a 3D rendering photo on the left of the existing home, its back deck, the rear of the solarium. You see an old door. This door is of the same vintage, the same generation as the front door and the south door. I'll make note of that. And all three of them have transom windows above them. I do not believe these are from the period of significance based on what we've been able to find, but they are old. Don't know what year they arrived at the house, but they are consistent as a set. I will point out, you see a satellite dish on the photograph at left. You see a variety of elements. This is a rather challenging design, an assembly of parts that don't make a whole lot of sense. And we are following the guidelines, trying to make a more architecturally compatible and consistent with the town of Telluride design that's less complex and makes more sense with the architecture of the contributing home. We see at the rear, at right, back doors and a portion of a covered porch. That's a part of the design. Some closets on the left at the rear for mechanical and some storage. And we see a bedroom window at the second level. That is the back of the addition. It ends in a gable. And we can see just a little bit in that view of the shed dormer, which faces south. This slide are the proposed motions, or 1 through 13. We'll focus here now on condition 1, revise the south wall plane to inset from the contributing structure. And it cites a series of guidelines which are listed here below. Some of these guidelines refer to setting back an addition from the front wall plane. And this south addition, or the south solarium, is 40 or so feet back from the front wall plane. And I think this condition, or some of these conditions are cited, relate to front wall planes, not side wall planes, which is this condition. We have the front at Aspen Street, and we have rather long side property line setbacks, which is what this existing addition to the rear is. That was a solarium, and it was approved, I'm gonna guess sometime in the 90s. It could have been in the earlier than that, in the 80s. I don't know for sure.
Hey, Peter, just on that, just so we conclude this one and not have to come back while you got it up there. On 19D1 though, I mean, it says inset from the original wall, clearly defining, so you can see it, and you know all this, but you can see the original corners.
Yep.
So, I mean, I don't know how we're gonna get around that, because I mean, it's pretty clear.
So look at this slide for a sec here. So you see where this solarium is. It is at the back wall of the historic 2-story or 1.5-story module. And we in early conversations with Jana talked about these options, whether it's inset from the historic and happens off of the rear with a connector, or whether it stays in the existing footprint and site coverage, which is what you see at right. And you cannot see, if we inset this addition, which we are not proposing to do, if we were to inset it from the rear, you wouldn't be able to see it. And you might say, well, that's better. We like that, but it's not a perceptible corner, frankly, that would be exposed, Mark, from the street. It is, I understand that condition. If I go back to it here, the 19D1, an addition may be shown to be later construction by jogging the wall plane. This wall plane does jog, such that it is inset from the original wall. It is not inset. It is outboard 5.5 feet as it exists today, clearly defining the original corners of the historic structure. So
your argument is because it's 50 feet back from the side.
54, yeah,
54 feet back. I don't know that I agree with you that trumps D1, but I hear your argument. But I mean, it defines the original corners of the structure. I mean, that's pretty clear.
Yeah, I know the original corners of the structure are still present. Whether they're visible, the back corners are not visible or cannot be visible from the street, Mark. They're that far to the rear, and I understand the distinction here, and I appreciate that. It is not a typical condition where you have an alley at the rear where you have that visibility possible. So
okay, can you go back to that photo real quick, that rendering, then we'll go on here. Sorry. This, like you said, these first two are the most critical. So your argument is, hey, it's 54 feet back, and oh, by the way, you can't see the corner from the street, but you could see it from the rear. Well, you can't see it from the rear because then there's this addition that's going to block it, I guess. Well, okay, well, let's go on.
Okay, yes, very good. So I will move on. The second condition here, this is yet another photograph, shows very basic models of the adjacent historic and then non-historic to the north or right homes adjacent, shows the driveway, shows the inkling of a curb cut on that sidewalk. And let's see, zoom out. These are similar. Yeah, these are a series of progressions going up the street, sort of looking towards the property as we move further and further north. Now we're in front of the house. And here is the trash enclosure, more of a focus. We can flash back to these. I don't want to get too distracted here, but the second condition, if I may, revise the height of the addition to subordinate and be more inconspicuous per REC 1 and HR 17. And I will note that the addition to the rear, which is 54 feet and greater back from the sidewalk from the front of the property. We see various photos here. It is subordinate. It is insubordinate in height. It is 9 inches lower than the ridge of the original historic home. And I will point out, if I zoom in here, the north side of the this home that we can see here kind of blown up, it extends as it is today and as it was approved and built. It extends this historic roof back along this north side all the way to the rear here of the eave that I'm focusing on, and is in that regard confusing about what is historic versus what is an addition. What we are proposing and what we are showing is the addition is a clear subordinate break. It steps down 9 inches and exists below that historic ridge in its length to the rear. This is described as a 1.5 story house. This is the second level, has 2 bedrooms in it and 2 baths. It is very much informed by the roofs. You cannot stand everywhere. You are interacting with the roof quite a bit, and stepping it down 9 inches felt like a pretty meaningful step. We do not propose dropping it additionally, just to let you know, but we look forward to hearing your comments on that. This is a photo I'm zooming in on from the street intersection or north sidewalk of West Columbia above, looking back towards 129 here in the center. You can see the historic or contributing home below. Its ridge is higher than ours, and it sits notably lower. The topography is lower, but it is a higher ridge. And then we can see the standing seam newer roof, which is a 2-story building with a higher roof, quite a bit higher adjacent to it there as well. I just want to point that out. Here's a view down the property line here. I'll zoom in on here. Mark, what is the existing condition? The fence is roughly on the property line, as shown on the survey. You can see the solarium, the south porch, and stoop, as well as a projection on the neighboring historic house, which exists today, does not show up on the Sanborn maps during the period of significance either, as our porch did not, for reference. But number 3 here, modify the parking to minimize visual impacts as well as the impacts to the contributing structure or structures adjacent per HR 16AC1. So let me zoom out, include the plan view here. So this is a challenging site. There's not a shortage of these kinds of sites in town. There's a number of homes that do not have parking or do not have accessible parking or have questionable parking, maybe at best. This is not an existing parking space, but this is just wide enough. It's in 9 feet or 9'1" width from the historic home to the south property line, which is sufficient for parking and functional parking. The town of Telluride, to grant this, we would be giving up a street parking space at the curb for this curb cut. We recognize that. We show 2 cars parking, the ability to have 2 parking spaces exist on the south side of the home as depicted. and that is preferable to some potential to limit it to one parking space. You could do this. You could say, I only want one car parked there. In my mind, that means that car is going to be parked at the sidewalk and closer and more visible than what it would be if it's further into the lot and west, if that makes sense. So it seems advantageous in my mind to have the ability to park two cars when you're giving up one in the street. And that makes sense. And if you only want one to park there, I don't know how you really legislate that without creating some obstacle, and that only allows you to pull in 18 feet onto the property. So does that make sense, or did I confuse you at all, Mark?
No, it's really a dilemma. Because I would say that I would have notes to the effect of limiting it to one car, but then, I think it doesn't help being out by the street more. However, if you have two cars, one car is going to be by the street anyway. And for the neighbor's concern, it was certainly.
They don't live in the home. Shane and Leonora, their full-time residence is in Canada. They would like to be here for chunks of time, but they would like to be able to park and have a place to park. I think it is questionable to invest as would be necessary with an application like this in Telluride without an ability to park a car on their property.
The question is one car or two.
Yeah. So if you can convince me you've got a way to somehow limit it to one car, I think it is preferable to have the car parked deeper onto the property, be less a part of the sidewalk experience. The way the home is designed, the way it works out, you could park two cars there. If you want to say you can only park one, so be it. But
how do you police it? But
good point. I don't think you can, or that doesn't seem very viable.
But if you took two cars, last question, and we'll move on this one. If you had two cars, Peter, and you pulled up and you allow about 16, 18 feet, and you had two cars stacked, would it be still towards the sidewalk and proud of the contributing house? I don't have a feel for that dimension. Is that 36? Because it's 54 from the street to there, but I don't know the grass. In other words, where would the second car line up? The one nearest the sidewalk, if there were two stacked?
They are stacked here. You see the X's, they're dashed. I'm zooming this in about as much as I can. The green dashed X's indicate 8 by 18 foot parking spaces. There are two of them stacked, and you've got another foot or so to the property line, and you've got another foot or so to the pad at the top of the stairs, left and west.
Wow. And then you're right on the sidewalk there. Okay. I'll think about that. We can go ahead.
So a couple of other things here just related to this, and looking at this parking question. We had debated, it is not a part of the depictions here, but you can see just the left and the right images. The right image shows grass being included in this parking area between the paver strips, if you will, the pavers that you would be driving over, as opposed to the left image, no grass. So we are quite happy to plant the green space and to have it perceived as a yard. I don't think we're going to be able to drive over flowers or any kind of meaningful things. It's going to have to be a mowable yard, if you will, but that can be a green space. I think we're also, as this image shows for comparison, what was proposed versus what we are happy to do here on the right is both have grass and have that be a yard green space south of the house, but also have an operable fence that allows that to be more consistent with how it exists today, which is a property behind a fence, and frankly, I think less perceptible parking or drive on the south of the house in that combination. It's a visual screening, which I know is something you brought up and made note of, Mark. Does that make sense?
Yeah, but I don't think the more I'm looking at this, that doesn't work. It's I can't see where the windows are in the neighbor's yard.
What windows are you talking about?
The adjacent neighbor.
I'm not concerned about the adjacent neighbor. I'm just trying to convey that we could have a gate, a fence, and this is a minimal fence. The fence existing today, and maybe what gets replaced is more of a picket fence, more of a solid fence, but this is a fairly transparent fence, just for reference, as it's shown. It could be more solid. I guess point is that whether there's parking there or not, it can be disguised rather convincingly.
Well, that fence is only 2 feet tall probably, so it's not gonna really do anything, but.
I disagree. I'd say it's in the 3 foot range, and it could be as photos of it here, that is a fence. And I think it is a screen, as the photo you can see it right shows.
Yeah, okay, we can go on.
All right. We were not proposing to update the windows. I think there's some confusion, but the RE plan, I believe, described not, swapping out or redesigning the windows. I think our Revit model was lacking the fine level of detail that exists at the front of this house, and apologize for that, but we agree with this condition. We're not suggesting changing anything there. I think hopefully that makes sense. We agree on number 5, ensure the windows being replaced. The contributing structure are wood, no problem there. 6, remove the new window on the south facade. This is a little more of an interesting conversation. So this is a photo I think we got from prior surveys of the home from the 70s, as it's described, with showing the south window you see circled in red, not existing today at right. I think what our RE plan, rehabilitation plan, shows is that if in exploratory work, once this is permitted or underway, if remnants or historic framing show that window appeared to be convincingly there and present during the period of significance to staff's satisfaction, that window would be included. If that is not the case, that window does not happen. That was our sort of orientation on that, whether that is agreeable or not. This series of photos at the south door from the interior pulled some sheetrock off just to try to look at this condition. And there's some old framing here above the door. And this is a zoom in on this. This is a wire nail, not a cut nail, which is inconsistent with original construction. We showed these photos as they were exposed, I think, this spring, with some very light remodel work and some painting to Jana. And I think we included the note to replace this door or to remove this door and replace it with a window with Jana. And she did not have an issue with that in our interaction. And that said, I think we are talking to Erica. I don't know that I've had a specific conversation with her about this, but this would be a similar instance where if staff feels this is proof enough that this is not historically original because of the method of construction and the date of the nails, then we would like to replace the door with a window. It is our understanding, and I have not pulled this together with a historic archivist to pull articles together, but we understand this home was occupied by a doctor. This could have been in the 40s. I do not know, but this porch, as you see in the Sanborn maps here on the low portion of the page, from 1908 at left and then 1922 at right, neither show a porch. And porches are shown rather consistently in Sanborn maps. They are not perfect, and it is not a photographic record. I don't want to get sideways here, but Sanborns don't show porch or an overhanging roof during the period of significance. Nor does it show a projection on the south side of the home south of us, but they exist today. It is my opinion today that this home, as a doctor's office, installed a door on the south side so that they could have a residential entry that allowed them to access the stairs you see and come and go from their sleeping quarters, and that there was an interior wall just to the street side of this side residential door that allowed the doctor's office to operate without commingling. That all said, as I mentioned, this door is of similar age. It looks identical to the front door to me and the back door, which was repositioned in the prior remodel.
Okay.
I do not have newspaper articles, and we have not kind of gone to that length, but that's my best conclusion based on.
There's some logic in your discussion to why it was there. So you're willing to say that if in the exploratory shows there was existing door there, then you would like to replace it with a window.
Correct.
And if it shows there wasn't a door there, well, I guess we're keeping it.
Yeah, we have. If we are able, someone's able to show us photos that showed a door there, and you know, we can date the photo to the period of significance. That's great. We don't have to do anything. It stays. It's just not. It is not what we have found. We have found non-historic nails related to that door, the framing of that door in transom, and I do not know. But it is apparent to me that door was not an original part of the house, because it doesn't have the cut nails that are present in the framing elsewhere.
Okay, and all right, I'm making my notes, so I think we're aligned on that. Go ahead. And 7 through 13, any comment?
None here. I think this is the south wall from the interior. There was the additional window in the 1970s photo. Again, if we don't find historic framing references here with cut nails or otherwise, then I don't think that window is a part of the application. But assuming we do, I think we would like it. And that's just notations within the art plan, to my knowledge.
Okay.
Condition 9 here, revise the siding material. We are fine swapping it out. We like the simplicity of, we have the addition, you see a south elevation of the home, and the addition to the left. The roof is a standing seam metal. We are happy to swap it out, the wall locations that you see on the first floor here, from that standing seam metal to a board and bat, a stained wood, not a painted wood, but a stained wood in a vertical orientation that would probably be nice and subordinate, soft, kind of mellow background colors to address that condition. Any questions on that?
No.
Number 10, relocate trash enclosure. This is a fun one, an interesting one. So I agree, this is a little challenging, and this is a photo bottom that's centered on a curb cut and a parking area for the non-historic yellow neighboring home just uphill of us. And if I zoom in on this, this is this may be a trash day or a recycling day. You see our polycart on the sidewalk for the 129 address. It's kind of a mess, and this is how this works. There are other photographs of where the polycart lives adjacent to the historic bay window, and you see the recycle bin there as well, and the neighboring situation. This is not great. And I think just to key you in, we did look at this red location south of the house. It could exist there, and things could work okay, but it is not an ideal location, because if there is a car parked there, you have to coordinate the parking of that car with getting your polycart to and from the sidewalk on trash day. And it's a management issue. And I think based on what we see here with the existing situation, it's preferable if it is more directly accessible any given day of the week at the sidewalk. We do not have an alley. We do not have any other options. So we're proposing to be treated similar to, I think, the neighbor to the north. I think a trash enclosure, albeit one that you could disguise behind a fence, makes a lot of sense. I think having a roof over it, as we proposed it, is a more usable and functional way to do it and bear proof as opposed to just a location for it to park that the bears can have. So
Can you go back to that photo or rendering of the traction enclosure?
which
Well, the one you're describing that you're going to propose, or is there one? Yeah.
I'm going to circle back. So there was a variety of these. Is this helpful?
Well, yeah. Man, I don't know. Okay.
So it's
All
in
right.
it's in the northeast corner, or it's on the south side of the house. I do not prefer the south side of the house, though farther from the sidewalk. It's not really these poly carts are going to live on the sidewalk, and trash bins are going to live on the sidewalk with greater frequency than they would in this location. They can be used and put away where they're proposed without.
Okay.
So that's something to noodle on, but that's an option, though we prefer as it's proposed, and I think that's consistent as well with how these have been used in recent years.
11 through 13, you're okay?
Agree. Yep.
Okay. So I have a follow-up summary question. On this parking, number 3, your point's well taken that, if you put one, then it's going to be, well, almost as close, although because how are you going to police this? If you allow one parking spot, of course, I guess that goes with respect to somebody verifying it from time to time, even if you took it all the way back to get it off the sidewalk. So I don't know realistically how that works. So I'm not sure, other than your fence, and your fence is proposed now. So I'm not sure further visual impacts, what we could do, if anything, since the fence is there. So it seems like it's going to have to be 2 cars. But my question is, your proposed screening would just be the fence shown in that one diagram, right?
That is correct. That is correct. There's no planting or other screening or height that can be achieved. I think, I think the grass visually is something we're happy to include as well, just to have the perception of a yard be more the predominant impression behind the fence.
Okay, and so the height, 9 inches lower, it is technically subordinate. We've seen many additions where when as skinny as 1 foot. Do you have any more room without the kick walls to ruin the ceiling height, to move it down another half a foot or so? I'm staring at it right now.
No, this is already questionable for
what's the height in there on the edge of those?
As you can see, the roof on the south side, Mark, it comes down like 2 feet off of the floor. The eave you see on the south side.
Yeah.
And so it's 2 feet at that eave on north and south side. The room is made smaller to get a headboard. It sets in. There's to get a 4-6 headboard wall for a queen size bed in that bedroom. So there's no room. This is a 1.5 story historic house. It is the smallest house on this block by height, and we are down from it.
Okay.
So I feel like, the concern I understand, but I think we have done admirable job as proposed.
Yeah, and again, as you point, the distance off of the road helps with that, because it was 30 feet off. Definitely 30 feet off the property line. We probably interpret the guidelines more stringently. But just so you know, before I lose you to public comment, I still am troubled by number 1, even though it's 54 feet back. And I realize you can't see the corner from the front. But then again, that appendage on such a full contributing house just looks beyond what the guidelines would contemplate, I think. And I don't know if it's got to be a flush, but 3 feet out, I know the old solarium was 5 feet out, you said, but 3 feet out seems
Well, I think we're keeping the same footprint, Mark. It's 5.5 feet as it sits, and that's what it would stay. But it would not be a solarium. The good news on this, the final pitch to this for you is that the solarium's rather awkward. And I think the clients would propose, utilizing that same footprint, that site coverage, that corner, cladding it in a subordinate material that's not a solarium on a contributing house, so that it is.
Can you go up to the photo of what's proposed, the rendering?
Let me get to see if I can
back in that corner. Yeah, there you go. Well, one of those on the right. Yeah. Uh-huh. And that's 5 feet out.
5.5.
Same as
5.5.
Oh, okay. Okay, thank you.
You bet.
All right. Let's hear from the public. Other public comments? Electronically raise your hand if you'd like to talk, or unless you're in the room, I can't see the entire crowd. Is it standing room only?
You can sit at this table, sir, and then use that microphone.
Good morning.
Yep.
Good morning, Mr. Shambaugh. My name is Joe Solomon. I'm here representing Don Montgomery. He's the owner of the house to the south at 123 North Aspen. I'm actually covering this hearing for Mike Lynch, who's out of town. You've seen Mike's letter, so I'll be very brief. I think the trash enclosure is fine. We acknowledge that it's practically, there's really no other place for it, and it does clean that area up. The main problem that my client has with the application is the parking. Certainly, we understand there's no alley, but the on-site parking really does impact the historic nature of the home and the street. There's no room for landscape screening. We've talked about that. Certainly 2 spaces is excessive. Imagine 2 Suburbans sitting there. It's just not right. Even 1 space, as Peter Sante acknowledged, you lose that 1 street spot with the curb cut. I listened to the discussion about, well, how do you limit it? If you do look at 1 space, how do you limit it to 1 and not 2? Easy. A physical barrier, a planter, pulled back to the point where if there is going to be 1 space, the car is going to pull back and not be right on the sidewalk area. So the primary request is to eliminate that on-site parking, but at a minimum, only 1 spot. With so much going on with this application, though, I would respectfully ask that you please consider referring this to the full HARC board so that you have your fellow commissioners to resolve these rather complex issues. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, any rebuttal comment from the applicant before we deliberate?
More public comment, Mark.
Okay. Oh, I see somebody. Please, yes. Sorry.
State
Yeah,
your name for the record.
My name is Rebecca Beavers, and I'm Don Montgomery's long-term partner. I have had the opportunity to help him maintain his beautiful historic home, and it is one of the most beautiful ones in Telluride. Don, we're very passionate about it. But what these pictures do not show, how close this house is to our house. Now, they're going to be moving the house and pounding. We're worried about our foundation. Every window in our house is all historic. I mean, at one point, we had to go in and repair some windows to the front, and the HARC board came and counted every window and numbered it. And when we brought it back, it all had to be perfect. And we've complied with HARC over and over again because we love the district. And the one thing that I don't think anyone's paying attention to is that 123 North Aspen is an incredible street. It is one of the greatest views in Telluride going up the mountain. And that needs to be, the setbacks on that street need to be protected. The Victorian sized lots need to continue to be shown and not chopped up. And the biggest problem between these two houses is, and no one has discussed this, is the snow load. Getting the snow out between these two houses is almost impossible, even with snow melts, with people coming in and doing it. And there's a gas line that runs all the way down the side of that house. Multiple times, because of the weight of the snow, it has bent some of the gas lines. They've had to cut the gas off to the neighborhood while we get it repaired. I don't see anyone talking about the snow problem. We're very, very concerned about that. We've even devised some things to where we have some metal that flips down over to try to protect those pipes. But it's very, it's very dangerous. And I don't see how they think they're going to be able to, if they have a parking lot, how are you going to get the snow out of there? You're going to have to move your cars and park them somewhere else, because you've got to, the only way you can get the snow out is out to the front of the street. So I just don't see where that's even workable. And two, it's just screwing up the whole value of the street when you're looking down and the setbacks in the historic district. That HARC has already looked at this at one point. I believe it was on a project that Peter's working on across the street from us right now. It was the old Markley building. And HARC decided that we had to preserve those views. And I just think putting in a driveway for these individuals that are not even going to hardly be here. We're here all the time, as much as we can. Our family's here. We're a family here in Telluride. And I just don't feel like for someone to come in and ruin the views of the historic district, it's just important. That's all I have to say. Thank you for hearing me out.
Thank you.
One more, Mark, or maybe two more.
Okay, welcome.
Hello, Chairman. My name is Don Montgomery. I have owned this house since 1978. I came here in 1977 and rented a house. I have been restoring this house since 1978. I've been a developer in town. I developed the Boulder Village project at the top of Aspen Street. At that time, in the early 80s, late 70s and early 80s, I developed, I took what was called Tin Village and was the Inarada Mining Company, and I took all of the steel buildings out and I put a park in the middle. All of the trees in the park you see up there are things that I put in up there. Now, when I was a developer, I recognized the difference between the historical district and the Hill Transition District. I built 10,000 square feet of housing up there, spec housing. When I put in the PUD, I put in underground all utilities. I put in all the sidewalks. I had 14 lots. So it's not like I come at this as not being a developer or being sensitive to development. However, I have to give you some history here on this. Between the two of us, the Winters have always owned that house. The Winters did an extensive remodel on this house at one point. At that point, they could take the house because I've been very active in Christ Church, which borders on the west here. I worked with the church. I helped between the church and I and the whole southern part of the church. I did all that development with the church. Now that's been 20 years ago, and now we have beautiful trees in the back there, and it is one of the proudest accomplishments of being part of that garden back there. a lady that helped us with that because her husband was very active when he passed away, did a wonderful job. And so it's a very special area because it's with the church. There's and so forth. We have done a lot to try to structure and help our this house. The fellow who built my house brought the brick up and built also the first courthouse in 1878. I'm not sure, but I think I found that the first deliveries to my house were in 1881. But at any rate, certainly by 1888, it's been established as part of it. When Narshik Tudor rented this house next to me for a long time, Pancho, the Winters, had it and used it as a rent house. Narcissus and I worked together. If you look at how tiny the yards are in the front yard, my front yard, and the adjoining yards, they're very small, but they're very correctly Victorian and beautiful. And if you put parking in there, it's going to just totally destroy the view of the whole historical house. I understand that there have not been any allowed parking spots like this except one time, and in that particular case, it was traded for employee housing in the rear. So this would be a tremendous precedent, and so to me, I've enjoyed being a neighbor next door, but I can tell you that the intensity off of both our roofs. I spent a bunch of money on my roof in the last few years. Narshik, at his expense, came in and put a steel plate all along the side of my house. And because he just didn't want to see the problems that we might have, again, where you have to shut everything down, and he didn't want to have any risk to his family from the gas pipes that are there. And so and Tallboy, who did the free ironwork for us. he did the shield and the plate that's along there and all of that. And then I have now also put in on my roof some more stuff, because what happens is you just got a very narrow area here. When you see that fence there, actually, I'm running another survey. It's over a little bit more, almost where their brick is. There really is almost no room in here between my property and their property. It's very, as you can see, it's very narrow. And you've got just like a canyon here, and it's a real troublesome. If you put stuff like that in there, it's gonna really impact, and it's gonna do damage to the value of my house, and as well, but in the long run. And so I hope that at least we can go. I think it would be good. There's too many issues here not to go to the full board. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, who would like to speak?
One more, Mark.
Okay.
Please speak to the mic.
Hello, Mr. Shambaugh, Rick Fusting. Live on Main Street. I realize how Main Street fills up quickly with cars in the morning. Typically fills up from the commercial district and then moves west. This home is very close to the commercial, also close to the gondola. One side of the street gets snow pushed to it, very limited parking. Imagine coming in with a load of groceries. Where do you park? You got a school down behind it. There's not a lot of parking in there. So you have to be a little bit realistic, I think. I understand nothing's perfect. My thought process is when you look at that house, and if you've ever been in the house, I've been in the house, and that upstairs, there's 2 bedrooms, right? 2 baths. It's like living in an attic. So I find it hard to believe that there's going to be 2 large Suburbans parked there at any given time. The owners are coming from Toronto. They're not going to drive here. At best, they'll rent a car. It'll be 1 car. I just don't feel like the likelihood of 2 cars in there and 2 Suburbans, I think that's just a over dramatic statement. I think it's more realistic and reality of somebody coming up and unloading groceries. To Don's point, yeah, there could be snow there in the winter, so you may not even see a car there. They may pull up, put the groceries in the house, and then park on the street. I live in a historical residential on Main Street, and To the west of me, a handful of houses down, maybe 3 or 4 houses, I don't know. There is a curb cut on Main Street for a house, and that's on Main Street nonetheless. So thank you for your time. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Anybody else?
I see none.
Okay, thank you for all your comments. And Peter, if you'd like to rebut and have the final comment.
I'll be brief. I will just note, I don't think we are changing the setbacks at all. I think those were mentioned by one of the public. Those are not being altered from what they are today. I think the snow maintenance is a understandable thing. I will note that prior owner got a memo from the Public Works Department, and I have seen this, and I know at the time Public Works was not opposed to a curb cut from their department. They did not deem it to be unusable. I will point out this is a 9-foot plus width. 8 feet is what a parking space is. This is sufficient for that. I have not seen a survey that shows that otherwise. I would be happy to look at that. Clearly, we need 8 feet. That would need to exist between some sort of a fence, if there's a fence there, and the house. And that's what you need for that. I think snow shedding, historic cedar shingle roofs, which is what we were keeping on the historic portion of this home and what is on the neighboring home, holds snow fairly well compared to metal roofs. I am not versed in what is going on with gas lines on this 129 property or the southern 123 property, but apparently there's some challenges there that may need to be addressed. That sounds like a good idea from what we have just heard. I do not believe this is going to affect the value of the street by allowing a curb cut. I'm going to point out that south of the alley on this west side of Aspen Street, there is a curb cut. It's a rather large one. That property has a historic home that blocks its alley frontage, and they got a curb cut, and it's quite visible and between historic structures. The home above us has a curb cut. It's non-historic. This is similarly challenged in width and does not have an alley. Otherwise, the neighbors who have spoken and have concerns have alley access and parking on site that is enclosed. So this is going to be a family home. This is not a going to be anything other than that. So I just point that out. I don't know how you can do this 1 parking space versus 2. I think you allow it to accommodate 2, but if you want us to put an obstacle so that it's only 18 feet deep, that is possible. I don't think that's going to be a better solution, because I think that's going to result in a car at the sidewalk where I don't think the neighbors want to see it. So that's all from me.
Okay, thank you. All right, well, thank you everybody for your input. As I deliberate on this, I'm almost ready to make a motion. I would say for the public's notice that most of the people in the room know that I usually am one of the more stringent interpreters of the guidelines and try to be fair and objective with respect to the whole board. So I don't feel a need to pass it up the line and shy away from this. However, I would like to continue it because there's several things that I think we need to look at carefully and see again. And I guess the last thing I'd say is looking at my notes for the motion. Yeah, I think the last thing I'll say is that although it wasn't a concern to the neighbors, Erica is correct about the number 1 condition. And normally those are flush or inset. And I am taking in consideration that it is 54 feet away from the property line to the back. So I'm going to allow some appendage, but not what is shown on the drawing. So I'll go ahead and make the motion right now. I move to continue to the October 18th chair meeting, the proposed minor scale addition and alterations at 129 North Aspen, Block 4, lots 37 through 40, West Telluride Edition, based on the findings of the staff memo dated August 23rd, 2024, with the following conditions. Number one, this will be revised to read. Revise the south wall plane to be inset and be no further than 2 foot proud, 2 foot 6 proud of from the contributing structure per RE 19B.1 and C 1 and 2, RE 19D.1 and HR number 1.B.3. Number two, the height was subordinate, so I'm going to delete number 2. Number 3, modify parking to minimize visual impacts and limit to 1 legal car with barrier, to limit the usage to 1 car, but at least 16 feet off the sidewalk per HR 16A and C.1. That's the new revised condition number 3. 4, as written. 5, as written. 6, remove the new window on the south facade and then add the following: unless exploration of framing inspection shows to be historic location per RE number 9.C. Number 7, I'm going to revise it to read: revise the plans to keep the door on the south facade per RE 10B 1 and 2 if exploration shows that the door was historically there, and a substitution of a window shall be allowed. Number 8 and 9 as written. 10, just my comment is, if it takes management of moving 1 car, then so be it. I agree with neighbors, it shouldn't be up front. And so 10, 11, 12, and 13 as written. This motion is based on evidence testimony at a public hearing held on August 23rd, 2024, with notice such hearing provided as required by the Telluride Land Use Code. So thank you. We'll see you in October, and thank all for their comments and concern. We'll go ahead and adjourn the meeting now at 10:11, and have a good day.
Thank you, Mark.